All right, so anyways, Shuffling Kids and Youth Ministries. You guys know what Shelly and I have been doing ministry for 12 years. And out of those 12 years, specifically doing children's and youth ministries, we've been doing that about 7 years specifically. And currently we're at Brooks. We've been there for 5 years, almost 5 years. And we've been also Shuffling Kids Ministries and Children's Ministries or Youth Ministries there as well. So basically what we have here today, Shelly and I's main verse for our life has been, First or 2 Corinthians 4:1, which I have in the paper there, is this is a verse that's really stuck out to us our whole time in ministry, and it says, "Therefore, since through God's mercy we have this ministry, we do not lose heart." And really, God has given us ministry. And it's through His mercy, and we don't lose heart. And there are times where we feel like we want to give up. And there's times where that happens. But we don't lose heart, and we keep going. And so we're just going to go ahead and pray and ask God just to bless this time together. Lord, we thank you so much that you have us here, that we can learn, that we can teach, that we can also be taught. And Lord, we just ask for your presence. We ask for your grace to guide and direct us in all that we would say and do. In your name we pray. Amen. Next thing down here, we have a Mafia church style. Have you ever played Mafia? Okay, Mafia is, you guys have probably played. Mafia is a game that we play more in youth group, but it is, it's Mafia. We use a deck of cards, and we have church members, and we're doing it church style. So we have our church members, which is all the people, would be the townspeople, and we also have, we have the Mafia, which in my case, and some people's cases could be the board, and I'm just putting that in there for fun of it. Your board members are kind of like the Mafia. They get to choose sometimes what happens, and sometimes we just deal with that. The doctor, we have pastor, and he can save himself and doesn't have to save anybody else sometimes. And again, not necessarily specific to me or to anybody. It's just the way we thought of the game. And then the sheriff, women's ministry director, always wanting to have the information and scoop on everybody and everything. And so we have that on there. And then the townspeople are getting the church members. And basically with this game, if you've never played it, everybody goes to sleep in this town, and the Mafia awakes, and they decide to get rid of a person. And whatever means they decide, Mafia does what the Mafia does, and they get rid of a person. And then the sheriff, or then the Mafia go back to sleep. The sheriff would awake and suspect somebody, and then you go back to sleep, and then the doctor would get up and save somebody, could save himself or another person in the church membership, and then go back to sleep, and then everybody awakes and they tell a story, and the Mafia dies. And if the doctor were to save somebody that the Mafia had chosen, then they'd be saved. Otherwise, then that person dies, and the townspeople vote on that. Okay. Oftentimes our churches can feel like that. Maybe not be the case, but it oftentimes can feel like that, especially doing kids ministries and youth ministries together, or any multiple ministries together. You're contending with a lot of people, more so than just one ministry at a time. And so that's something that, again, I specifically know, is we just deal with a lot more people doing multiple ministries, and especially with kids ministries and youth ministries. So we have down here tips for survival. How do we survive in doing kids ministries, youth ministries? How do we end up doing that? There's a lot of things that can happen, and it takes a lot of time doing multiple ministries. Most of us know that. We probably do multiple ministries. But how do we survive in that? And so basically today we're just going to go through some of these things that my wife and I have decided this is what we do. This is how we're going to survive. This is the things that we're going to do to make it happen, to make it work. And so don't reinvent the wheel. On this table right over here, I've got tons of material and stuff that my wife and I do. We don't reinvent the wheel all the time. There have been occasions where we write something completely new, and oftentimes we take something that might even be an old material. We find at the Goodwill for $1 or $2, and it's cheap. But we might take the idea and we go off of that idea. It's a lot easier than having to create your own ideas again. Instead of having to go and find something, sometimes it's easier to just take something, pick it up, and go through it and just reinvent it a little bit, or not reinvent it, but just to put it in a term that might even be usable today. Specifically in our youth group, we do this a lot with our messages. My messages that I put together, I put it in PowerPoint. I'll take it right out of one of these, which is an older book, and we don't use that style anymore, but put it into PowerPoint form, and just do that. It makes it a lot easier, a lot more involved, as far as you don't have to come up with a whole idea. It's already there. So don't reinvent the wheel. lots of good resources out there going into both ministries, youth and children's ministries. And it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you were at the what is that one? Creative, there we go, get the right one. Creative seminar. Everybody has some bit of creativity in them. And it doesn't really matter how creative you are. I'm glad that my wife is more creative than I am, and that helps me out a lot. But still, you can recreate part of this. You don't have to create the whole thing, but you can just do a part of it, and it works out. You don't have to design your own curriculum. There's so many curriculums out there for both ministries, children's ministries, youth ministries. We've been using a high voltage kids ministries for our kids church, and absolutely phenomenal. There have been times where we kind of look at them and go, you know, we can do something a little bit different here. But basically, we've been using that, and it's worked out really, really good. It's something we didn't have to recreate. We didn't have to create it. And I don't have the budget to create something that they've already created. It's a lot easier. I can buy their material for relatively inexpensive and do that, and I don't have to create that. Great resources there for that. So you're going to end up saving a lot of time and energy. If you're going to be doing multiple ministries, as many of us might already be doing, but at doing multiple ministries, you're going to need to save every bit of time and energy you have. Because it gets spent. You're spending it, you know, for us, kids church on Sunday, we're spending it there. On Wednesday nights, we're spending that on our kids programs, Rangers and Missionettes or Impact Girls. And then on Fridays, we spend it with youth group. And any other days in between there, any other activities, it gets spent really easy, really quick. And so we want to conserve the energy, as we kind of learned last night. Let's sweat smart. Let's not do something just because we thought we needed to do it, but let's do it wisely for a purpose there. The second one here is to use youth or teenagers on a rotating basis in your kids' ministry. We probably wouldn't be able to make it otherwise. It's very important to use your youth in your kids' ministries. It creates a bond, it creates a tie, and it creates something that the younger kids want to end up doing when they get older. It creates a desire for them to come in and be a part of that. It helps them to grow up a little bit, even though there's a lot of growing up left to do, but it helps grow up a little bit, and it helps prepare them for youth group. Transition between kids ministry for us and your youth group seems to be really, really easy. Why? Because our youth are already involved in our kids' lives and the children's lives, and vice versa. It's the other way. The kids are already involved in the youth's lives because they're helping us out. Not every youth is helping out in our ministry, in kids ministry, but we have quite a few. We try to put them on a rotating basis. Simply because if you get too many in there, it just causes more of a problem than necessary. But you just want to make sure you put them on a rotating basis. Again, this helps the ministry by allowing you to connect with your teenagers. It is a great way to connect with teenagers. They want to be useful. They want to be used, especially if they're junior hires. High schoolers kind of want to sit and maybe a little bit more, but still a great resource for you in kids ministry. Find some of them that want to help out, who want to maybe even be in a ministry, and put them to use and let them help you out a little bit, because it's a lot of work. Might as well. It gives them ministry experience, invaluable ministry experience. I remember myself being a junior hire and high schooler and helping out in kids ministry and doing puppetry, experience I didn't get at college, and I'm glad I had some, because my first job was something I did not expect, and having at least a little bit of ministry experience helped out a lot. And then obviously being married to somebody who grew up in that helped out even a lot more. But it gives kids some ministry experience. They need to have some of that, because they need to know how to approach people. They need to know how to pray for them. They need to know how to help them out. And this is a great way for them to learn that in your kids' ministries, to have youth helping. Make sure that you have a schedule that you do. For our youth, because they're younger, when they're helping us out, they need to know that there's a schedule, because without a schedule, they kind of go off on their own. And that's something that maybe you already have in your kids' church, but having a schedule really can help out with that. Especially, it doesn't have to be the same every Sunday, but it helps out for my youth who is doing my sound and my PowerPoint to have the same schedule every week. Otherwise, he gets really confused, and it can be kind of chaotic. But they do help us out, and it's great. We're at the moment where we don't really have to tell them what needs to be done. We still direct them, we still help them out, but we don't have to tell them. They know what needs to be done, and so they can come in and do that. So using the youth as your helpers in kids church, or even just other kids events, is a great way to involve the two together, because otherwise they would not want to help out their younger siblings or be around them. They want to do their own, but it gives them a sense of a little bit of leadership, and it gives them an idea that they can be leaders and that they can work in that area. Third one here is plan your calendar at least a year in advance. I've got my calendar over here on the third page of this. We have our youth and kids seasonal events. These are events that we do every year so far. Since I've been in Brooks for 5 years, these are events we've done almost every year around that same time frame. The reason we do that, it just makes it easier for us to plan the calendar, because we already know what's going to happen, but it gives us time to plan for it. We already know it's going to be on the calendar, so it gives us time to plan for it. But planning at least a year in advance means that you can communicate with other ministries in the church. Other ministries know what you have going. We work with our WM's group all the time, rearranging times for them and us so that we can make sure we use the same facilities at the same time without conflict. So again, plan your calendar out early. It's frustrating for me when I don't get everything planned out as early as I need to, for me, because then I come up on the event and, I didn't get this done like I needed to. And so trying to plan it out earlier, I know what's going to happen. There might be some final details, but overall it's planned out. Some of the things that we do first is we always plan the district events, the ministry network events. We try to plan those first. Those are big events that I know the district or the network is doing, and so we try to plan them in there. They're events that we try to go to. We try to push to go to them. It doesn't always happen with every event, but we always try to make that a priority because we're part of the network, and they do a lot to help us out. And likewise, we need to do the same and do our part and be supportive of those ministries. They're important ministries, and we always want to be a part of that. And so we try to plan those out first on our calendar. And again, like I said, we do it because we do an annual. We do it a year at a time if we can. I have next year's calendar with me, and I've got most of all of these events already written on there. Not just because we did our calendar meeting, but because we know those are events that we're doing. It gives us time to plan. Again, it helps us to look into the future and know these are things we have to do. And I've already written down on some of those things, such as our mission trip. I've written down, we need to have airline tickets by this date, and we need to have money in by this date. And some of our winter camps, we've got registration due right now for winter camp coming up in a couple weeks. So those are things I write in my calendar. It keeps me in check. So when we get closer to that, I know I can call on it and make sure we have things ready. It's also a great way for your kids to look forward to events you have coming. Your kids may not plan a calendar in a year in advance. If you're planning a year in advance, then your kids can have an opportunity to see at least a couple months in advance. When it comes up to big events, it's always a good idea because they're probably events that are going to cost money. And it gives them time to plan, and it gives parents time to plan. In kids ministry, we need to make sure the parents know about these events too, not just kids, because parents will always come back, I didn't know about this early enough. And so planning early enough, we can get the information out, making a flyer or going and talking to the parents, calling them, whatever it may be. In our circumstance, we don't always have all the parents come to the church. We pick up quite a few kids that parents don't come. And so we try to make contact through phone or when we're dropping kids off, make sure we talk to them, or by flyers, trying to get that information out to them in whatever way we can. It's also a great way to put fundraisers on your calendar. Again, working with our WMs, we're always constantly seeing which events that they're going to do and we're going to be working on so that we don't conflict, and having it planned out a year in advance, we're not fighting over events. And that's really important, to not be fighting over special times where you're raising money. For us specifically, when we have concerts come, those are nights that we usually do fundraisers. And we want to give each ministry an opportunity to have the fundraiser, so if we plan out early enough, then we can spread that out. We don't have to worry about it. Between all the ministries, and especially kids church and youth ministries. Now, a lot of our fundraisers that we do are for youth because they end up spending a lot more money and going on trips, but we do have some kids ministries that we still raise money for. We just kind of sort of finished one for Halloween, our harvest party. We try to get in some funds for that if we can. We also have other events. Christmas, we have Easter, we have events for those. Those are more of your kids church events, and even kids camp. whatever they may be, through the Impact Girls or through the Rangers or through a summer camp. Those are events that you'd end up be raising money for. One of the things you need to do is also check with your lead pastor, your senior pastor, and how many will allow you to have in a calendar year. We're finding out that it's really easy to wear people out on fundraisers. They can get tired really easy, and so we try not to have too many. There's lots of things that money are being raised for in the church, whether it's new carpet or whether it's groups that are coming in or whether it's your own ministries raising money. There's a lot of money being raised, and people can get tired really quick of fundraisers. And you can only have so many nacho feeds and baked potato feeds. And even though they're enjoyed and liked, you can only have so many of them before people are tired of them. And so you want to make sure you schedule them out and spread them out evenly so that you don't have one every Sunday night in 1 month, because that's not going to end up working out. People are going to quit coming at some point. And so spread them out if you can. And again, check in with your pastor at an annual calendar meeting if you have one at your church. Those types of things are going to help, make sure that you're not double booking something, which always tends to happen at least once or twice a year. But it's a lot easier to work through it if you have good standing with those people in those ministries. Also, combined family, youth, and kids events will involve a lot of people, and it'll solve a lot of conflict problems. Okay, being a youth pastor and a children's pastor, a lot of our events are combined. For the girls' National Girls Sleepover, well, the girls end up with a sleepover and the guys end up with a sleepover, and those are both kids, and yes, they are separate. Okay, but we end up doing them. The guys go to my house, girls stay at the church. But we start the night out, we go to the swimming center, and we do that. And we can do that with both youth and the younger kids. And it's a great time to involve them in when we do those events. That's one of a couple we end up doing throughout the year. But again, those are great times for the younger kids to hang out with the older kids and vice versa. And whatever events you may be doing at 3 a.m, whether you're watching Star Wars trilogy or all 6 of them, whatever. Those are times that you can hang out. Most people are going to end up crashing, but even if they don't, it's a good time to hang out. It's a good time to get the multi-age groups together for that scenario. But again, it involves the older kids in helping out with the younger kids. And most of your older kids are going to be more than willing to help. You're always going to end up with a few who really don't want anything to do with the younger kids. It's going to happen. But my experience, most of them are willing to help out and are willing to be a little more kind in that occasion. And that's been my experience. So again, if you look at the calendar, things we have written down there, a lot of the things, I wrote down, like New Year's is youth, winter camp is youth, Super Bowl party is family, kids, and youth. I mean, you can involve all of those families and part of that through certain events at a Super Bowl party. You can always have a slight service at halftime. Most people who do a Super Bowl party end up doing that. We always try to give a prize to the person and get closest to the score, the right score. And so we try to do that. But it is truly a family's kids and youth. It's not just one or the other. And a lot of people might do one or the other, but multiple ministries, you have to involve all those. And it's so much easier. Again, Valentine's, we do kids. We do different parties for the kids, youth, and also a fundraiser for the Valentine's. And just going down through the calendar, there's all types of things. Bravehearts is a girls' all-nighter, but we're also going to be doing a guys' all-night at my house at the same time. Because where we would normally have our youth group on Friday, it already includes the girls are going part of that as youth group, so I'm just going to have the rest of the guys as the rest part of my youth group. But also for those, and it just keeps going down, all the way down through the year. You can see all the different things there. And these are things, and I might not have them all on here, but these are things we know we do every year. These are things that were on the calendar every year simply because we have to do them. There are times that are great times to do them. Some of these events are over 3-day weekends during the school year, and those are great times to get kids together. Otherwise, parents may be working on those days, and kids are just sitting at home or hanging out with friends. Again, we want to include them. Snow days are great days to include kids and youth, because the youth are going to go off and go play in the snow, and kids are going to do the same. And there's no reason to not have them. And in our case, it's a lot easier because then we can take our larger vehicle, the bus, and we all go up in the same vehicle. We don't have to drive 2 or 3 vehicles and figure out how to get everybody up there. We just take everybody at one time. All right, the next thing we have here is, again, have a yearly permission slip for your activities. We have a yearly one. It's on the very back page. I included that. It may not be specifically directed at your church. This is mine that I have, but I use this, and I know the top says Youth Ministry Master, but it's not necessarily just youth. I have my kids fill it out, especially when we do snow day events. We try to make sure we have all that. It's stuff you have to have. Also on this one, I have a spot down the bottom for transportation. We pick up a lot of kids whose parents don't come. And we're trying to get the parents to fill these out to make sure, if something happens while we're transporting your kid, that we have information on them. And we want to know it's okay to pick up your kids. Some of the kids we pick up are pretty young. And parents need to know that we have them, and we need to know we can pick them up. And so we try to get this filled out by everybody who takes the bus, everybody who comes to the church, in our kids' church. It's good to have. I have some more people that we're still trying to get people to fill them out and get them turned in. But it's important to have that permission slip, and doesn't necessarily keep you from any kind of lawsuit, but it's a benefit